Welcome to The Chase, episode 15. Bobby
Wow.
and Jacob here again. 15 episodes, yeah.
Do you remember being 15?
Vaguely. There wasn't much going on.
I was not far from that, so that was 5 years ago.
I'm a little bit older than you. So
Yeah, no,
a little bit.
you're okay.
All right,
I believe you.
A lot. Anyways, so today we're going to be talking about working heartily as unto the Lord and kind of discussing the attitude and the actions that we as Christians should have in a work environment and kind of generally under some sort of authority. I think it'll apply to both sides as far as that's concerned. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Right off the bat, let's go Colossians 3:22 through 24. And that says, "Slaves, obey your earthly masters in everything, and do it not only when their eye is on you, and to curry their favor, but with sincerity of heart and reverence for the Lord. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for human masters, since you know that you will receive an inheritance from the Lord as a reward. It is the Lord Christ you are serving." Thoughts?
I have lots of thoughts. Are you talking about these ones?
Yes.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's pretty black and white. For like, if you're
Think so?
reading it, I mean, you gotta, of course, you gotta look at the context of what's happening because we don't have slaves
Right.
anymore. Thankfully, hopefully, yeah, we don't, right? Yeah.
Not in America.
Okay, good.
At least.
But, yes, no slaves, but I just look at it as anyone. I mean, you have bosses. I mean, work is basically slavery because you go every day because you have to, or you won't eat.
You can connect those two a little bit more than others. Some people might not as much.
Yeah. Maybe, I don't know.
Depends on where you are.
Depends on what you feel like. Work is for you. But anyways, you got a boss. You have someone who's ahead of you, and it's saying, don't curse them, don't steal from them, do right, and then when they're not looking, be working. Like God's talking about having integrity here.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, there were slaves that in that time that as soon as their masters would turn their backs, they would steal from them. They would talk about them. They would wrong them. And it's being addressed that that's not how God has for us. Like, imagine, like, in a different mindset, take your mind and imagine that you're not working for that person, but you're doing it all for the Lord.
Yeah.
And I think that's just, you can apply that in so many ways.
For sure. Yeah. Well, the way I see it is that, honestly, if I'm working for people, I am not going to do a good job because people are fallible. They make mistakes, and there are a lot of people personally that I work for are good people. But I've definitely had people that if I was working for them, I wouldn't do a good job. I wouldn't care. I wouldn't be making it a point.
Motivated?
I wouldn't be motivated. And this just tells me the opposite. It tells me that, no matter who they are, I need to work as though God was standing there, and he is. He's with us all the time, but as if we're working directly for him.
Yeah. I think that's like the most common thing that I would say that I come across with people is that it's hard for them to do and live this way. It's hard for people to live in faith or to act a certain way. It's like, why would I need to act this way? Like so many times I even talk to my wife about this. There's Christians and people that are in leadership positions. There's Christ followers who they don't think as if their actions and their words are something that represent Christ. It's like, man, like there's so many things that go through my head. It's like, man, I really wanted to say that in front of that person, or I wanted to say that even with the authority that I have on the mic here at this church, like, or even in this podcast. There's so many things that go through my head. I'm like, and the Lord's like, no, don't say that. Like, and then not thinking that what I do say it's a reflection of who he is, and that there's things, and I think that it applies to the way we work. I mean, when we work and we say, hey, yeah, I love the Lord, and then when people watch you and you're a liar, you don't work hard, you're just willing to slack off and let the team down, and they're like, wow, that's the way Christians are? Guess I don't want to be a part of that at all.
Yeah.
And you see it all the time. I see people that say they're Christians, and by their mouth and the way they speak and by the way they work and the way they treat others, even when that person is not around or there, it's like, do you really love the Lord? Because there's no fruit there. Like,
Yeah.
and I think that's a lot of what happens with work ethic. Like, it all ties into who we represent.
And it's hard. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard. You know, if you did something that your boss didn't like, whether you're right or wrong, it's hard to sit there and just take it, you know, take the, not necessarily verbal abuse, but maybe, could be verbal abuse, but even just, you know, them getting on you and telling you that you need to do a better job. It's hard to sit there and take it and be like, yeah, you're right. And I'm not trying to brag on myself here.
No.
But
No.
I've been through this. I've been through some difficult work situations in my past, and involving Home Depot even. But not this one. But I've gotten to the point where almost like I have to recognize my own faults before somebody points them out. Because if I can recognize where I'm slacking in my work, my boss will never have to come to me and say, hey, you're slacking here. You need to do a better job in this aspect. And like everything else, this principle that we're talking about, it requires practice. It requires growth. And when you get to that point, you can get yourself where you're constantly thinking about, am I doing this as unto the Lord? Am I, while I'm sitting here when I have other things to do, is this something that God's going to look at and say that he's pleased with?
Yeah, that's a good question. I always try to, the other day I had like the weirdest like experience, and I was upset at work and I was acting a certain way, and then all of a sudden I just like felt like my mind went to a different place in the building. But I was standing and I was watching myself. I was like, if I was watching myself in place of where my boss would be, or like just like I was walking by and I saw an employee acting the way I was, would I be like, what is that dude's problem? Or like, what is he doing? Like, I thought he said he was a Christian. Like, you know, it was really weird to put myself in the shoes of another person's eyes, and like thinking about literally like each insect, like even when it comes to like just standing around. Like if I was just standing around like just trying to gain a thought of what I should be doing at the moment, like, or if I just was standing around too long, is like watching myself, like, that dude's been standing there for a while, you know, or that guy's not focused. And it's like, you got to, I think some of it is so practical. Like, yes, it's for the Lord, but a lot of it is practical. Like, just thinking of the small ways. And me, by no means am I perfect. I fail a lot. And I get let known that I fail a lot at work. Because I'm learning. I'm human. I make mistakes. But it's the cool thing about failing is that, like, I had somebody tell me once, I mean, I felt like I let God down. And they're like, you didn't let God down because you were never holding him up. And it's like in those situations where you feel like you let God down, God's holding us up and we're standing on his rock. And so when we fall on him. And so I think that's another thing that's important to focus with, like, when it comes to work ethic and you feel like, man, I've been failing. Like, it's okay.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, God knows that we're human, and, you know, that just proves that we need him even more.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm so thankful for those moments where I fail, and God's just so like gracious and like loving and kind. Like, I mean, like when you fail, for me, it's just like I imagine like failing. It's like watching a little kid try to ride a bike or do something difficult for the first time. they keep falling. It's like, it's okay, you got this. Like, that's how I imagine God's like kind of cheering us on, not in a taunting way, just like in a loving way, like knowing that someday, like, you have kids, you've watched them learn how to walk and crawl, and just like, someday that they're going to be walking, like, and your boys are grown up now, so.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you can speak to that a little bit more.
Right. From my perspective as a dad, like I'm human, so sometimes when that failure happens on their end, I can get a little frustrated.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely, it's like you're working hard towards this and you're failing, but you know what? The more you do it, and I tell my oldest son this all the time, I'm like, the more you do something, you might fail, but the more you do it, the better you're going to get at it.
Oh yeah.
So
practice makes perfect.
Keep that mindset of keep practicing. And don't get discouraged, just lift yourself back up and keep going.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So this whole kind of idea of work, you kind of mentioned that it all started in a particular place. You want to expound on that?
Whoa. Whoa, yes I would.
All right.
Or the best place to start, I guess I would always say is like if you're looking for a problem in someone's life, and say someone's sinning, it's like you got to go to the root of it. Where did it start? So that was kind of like my it's like where did we lose? Because I was like, why is like a hard work ethic and integrity lost? Like, where is it? Like, then I was like, let's go back to the beginning. So I looked in Genesis, and it shows when God was giving Adam a task, it was to till the garden and name the animals. So God, first and foremost, was showing Adam that it's time to work. Like, I gave you everything perfect. You have everything you need. But he still needed to work. Like, God ordained working. So, because it's good for man. It's good for men and women to work. I believe when Eve was there, I'm sure she helped. And I'm sure some of the cooler names are because of Eve. For animals.
Yeah.
And it's so cool to think that from the beginning, God was thinking of what we would need. And I think I would even like to say that we're going into a generation of people that don't like to work. We have a lot of people where things are delivered to their door. People that can, with a click, can do anything they want. They want food, a car, clothes, so on and so forth. They can deliver to the door, and all they got to take is a few steps to the door. And it's like, why go to work when you can have a job at your home? There's so many of these ways that work is being eliminated. But if you are looking at the way God designed it, God designed it from the beginning for work. Like, it's good for humans and people to work.
Yeah, it's
good. I mean, I just think that so easily that we oh, did God really want that? And I'm like, all right, I get so many Christians the Bible is kind of outdated, or that was in the Old Testament, or just so many things where people are eliminating God's word. But I believe so much that God's word is so true and applicable to today's life more than it ever has. It's so man, in a world that you don't have anything clear. Right. That it's all right here. It's this is black and white. When everything seems unclear, this is black and white.
Right.
And God ordained work and work ethics. It all started in the garden. Are you looking for Exodus?
No, I was looking for that particular spot in Genesis. I was trying to remember, was work originally part of the curse?
No. Because he asked them to take care of the animals. But it was a part of the curse because God beforehand was giving him all he needed. Uh-huh. And then now he has to work on the ground and plow the fields, and work became a bad thing. You know what I mean? It was like work is here for you because it's good, but now it's a necessity. That's the way I look at it.
Okay, yeah. I remember talking with my dad about that at one point, and we were just talking about work in general. He was a farmer for a lot of years, and so he knew a little something about work.
Oh yeah, for sure. Farmers are. a hard worker.
Yeah. So, but anyways, he said that the difficulty of work, at least especially kind of like hard work and how it's not, it's kind of turned into more of a chore, I guess. But at the same time, with God in your life and looking at work as a blessing from Him, it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah,
like
it's not
you can
a chore.
find fulfillment and you can find purpose in work, as well as means of kind of an opportunity to bless others.
Yeah.
Coworkers and all that kind of thing. So
I mean, I've talked to some people who are lead pastors of churches who work full time, and something that they are most commonly the most common thing that I have heard from all of them is that they're jealous of people who get to go into the workplace.
really,
Is because they get to be around people who don't know the Lord.
Oh, yeah.
And every day that the people that are at full-time ministry, they don't get to go to work and be around people. They're almost forced to be around unbelievers. The workplace is the darkest war zone that any Christian can go into because you have to be there, one. And two, there are a lot of stubborn people that have had so many different experiences with so many different beliefs. And I just think that, it's if you stop looking at it, like you said, like a chore, you start looking at it as a way for God to work and use you, it's amazing. Think man, Lord, how do you want to use me? Go to work every day.
Yeah.
The biggest, I was listening to Judah Smith, and he said the biggest thing that any Christian man can do is be consistent. And it's the biggest testimony a man can leave. It's I don't have a big story. I don't have the drug addiction that I was saved from. I don't have this. But I knew the Lord since I was 13, and I served Him faithfully since then. That speaks volumes. And he said that his biggest thank you to his dad was, thank you for being consistent, man of God. And so I think that when we use our purpose of just being consistent, you don't think you're doing a lot, but your consistency speaks to people that may be watching you every day. And you go to work and you open up your word every day and you spend time, or you talk to people lovingly no matter how much they spit in your face. And it just speaks huge than just one person who every once in a while does something great, like a miracle or just some great performance on stage or great message. Imagine the person who's been consistent, reliable, accountable, and same, and then someone who's not reliable and never can be predicted of when they're going to be that way. It's just you have, at my work, we do gluers, and we glue posters together for yard signs. Oh. And something that is good in our work is if you can tell if there's a consistent glue line. You want a consistent glue line because then everything sticks together. And it's that's a good sign. But when it goes wrong is when the glue is inconsistent.
Yeah.
And then it's trash and it needs to be thrown away. And so that when you're consistent, that's what makes it. And I think that Christians, we need in our work ethic and the way that we behave, we got to be consistent.
Yeah. Does speak volumes, yeah. Because, you see anybody that's unreliable and you're like, man, that guy's, why is he even working here? Why does he even bother?
Oh, yeah.
So,
if you show up to work every day, it's miserable. And so many people, all they're searching for is purpose in life.
Yeah.
The most common thing people are wanting is purpose. The reason that people walk through church every day and they come and they feel like a robot and they do it out of just muscle memories, they show up because they don't have purpose. The church isn't giving them purpose. Even just you can go so many churches in the United States that are dead. It's because people haven't been given purpose. And your purpose is what God did from the beginning. He gave man work. He gave them things that will put them in a place to succeed.
Yeah. So let's move on to... right, that's what I was going to say. The Sabbath day. So...
this is important.
This is important. And...
this is very important.
I know a pastor who is of the mind that one of the reasons that society and even people in the church nowadays don't have peace is because they're not adhering or kind of following this principle of the Sabbath day. And for just kind of anybody who's listening or watching, the Sabbath day is simply a day that God blessed.
Day of rest.
A day of rest. Said in Exodus 28 through 9.
8 through 9.
Got it?
You want? Yep.
Okay.
Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord your God. In it you shall no work, and in it you shall do no work. You, nor your son, nor your daughters, nor your male servants, nor your female servants, nor your cattle, nor your stranger who is within your gates. So, I mean, that kind of covers everybody.
Yeah.
The people who surround you, and your animals,
Even your animals.
and yep, your sons, daughters, wives.
Right.
But we have wife.
Wife.
No,
Yes,
no,
wife.
it is.
Well, I think it was talking like general.
Yeah,
Maybe. I don't know.
just everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody needs to rest.
That's the point.
I mean, I think a lot of Christians, where they go wrong is they're a little too, like, yes, the Bible's black and white, but they're maybe a little too, like, stickler on that day.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it doesn't have to be Sunday.
Right.
Just a day where you tell the Lord that you're going to rest in his presence, spend time with him, and you're not going to do chores around the house. I mean, you can't neglect the things that you need to do, like responsibilities, but you definitely like have to, like, in those moments where you might want to watch a movie, or those moments where you might want to do those little activities that you would want to do, and just be like, Lord, this is the time that I'm going to maybe spend time in my word. I'm going to spend time praying. I'm going to spend time in your presence. Spend time with your family. I believe that's a huge part of the Sabbath.
Yeah.
It's just undivided time with the people God put in your life. Like, how many times do we get so busy with ministry, work, the kids, and we don't actually spend like quality time with those people? Like, so many times me and my wife will be at home, we'll be on our phones, and we spend an hour on our phones next to each other, but we didn't spark up a conversation. Like,
Yeah.
I think that I would consider that a part of the Sabbath.
That's a good point. And it's easy to get distracted.
Oh yeah.
Because, well, like you said, phones, but yeah. I mean, even on Sundays, man, sometimes I just spend hours in front of my TV and I'm just like, what's the point of this? Why am I doing this? This is,
I totally understand.
Sunday and I should be off doing something, well, not productive, but, something that is going to grow my family or grow my
memories,
myself, my spirit. And it's kind of interesting to think about all the things, because Leviticus, or was that Exodus? No, I think maybe it outlines in Leviticus, but the Israelites were required to do, had very specific things and rules that they had to follow for the Sabbath. And I think there's definitely some things that we can glean from that. But
like when they were sowing the field and the instructions for sowing the field.
when the what?
The Leviticus 25, sowing the field, and their instructions that they received for that.
Yeah, there was that, and then you could only take so many steps.
Yeah,
you could only.
I mean, there's you couldn't use your right hand to do something
something like that. Yeah. And but
that was also a part of the laws too, how they kept creating laws just because.
Yeah. So.
But I mean, think about I think another part of work ethics is yes, to have good work ethics, but also don't get caught in FOMO. I think with social media, there's a big sense of fear of missing out, and making you feel like you have to be doing something. You have to think that family's spending time at the fair, or that person's doing something cool, and I've done nothing wild, but I've spent time with my family. That little bit of time with your family could be way more important than any cool thing that person did on social media. I think that there's also that side of it. It's with the Sabbath and what we talked about, it's just don't get caught up in what other people are doing, because what may be resting for them may not be resting for you.
That's true. It was. I think I was going there when I was talking about all the rules the Israelites had.
Yeah.
But I let the point drop on accident.
It's all good.
But David, there was one point I think Jesus referenced back to David, who on the Sabbath day picked grains like wheat grains from a field, and I guess that was against the rules for the Sabbath.
Yeah.
But Jesus kind of pointed out that it was something that David needed because he and his men were hungry, and so like at that point it was necessary for them to find food to eat. And
I mean, Jesus healed people on the Sabbath.
right.
And
right.
they were like, "What are you
all
doing?"
So I think it's important to kind of seek God and understand, because in one of our previous episodes we talked about that God's word sometimes applies to the individual, not to the entire body, in specific ways, I should say. And so it's just interesting that even the Sabbath was kind of one of those things where
I mean, Jesus changed it all, too.
he did.
There's a lot of things that, like, yes, it's important to realize, but Jesus, in a sense, changed it. Not that he's not consistent, but Jesus was meant to stir things up and make things different.
Yeah.
Like, this was, like, the Sabbath was a part of, like you had to do this. Like, this was a part of the law.
Yeah.
And then Jesus came, and he allowed it to be a thing of life and joy and refreshment for the body and for the people. Like, the Sabbath wasn't like, I have to do this or there's punishment. Now Jesus says, you get this. This is from me. This is instruction from me so that you can live a full life. Like, I'm giving this to help you. Like, you don't have to follow it. Like, you can go do whatever you want because I love you. But I'm setting you up just like a dad would say, not a lot of candy before bed or not a lot of candy on Halloween, when you ever have your like pillowcase full of candy, like as a kid.
Right.
It just like, no, because it's not healthy for you. It's going to give you a stomach ache, and God's just like, here, this is for you to help you. And I mean, from the beginning, that's what it was, but we were under the law before Jesus. So, I mean, Jesus changed it.
He fulfilled the law, but he also gave us kind of freedom from its restrictions.
I mean, he broke the chains from the law. I mean, people were tied to doing so much of that. I mean, they had so many laws, their heads were spinning.
Yeah.
I mean,
I know mine would be.
Yeah, I couldn't do it.
Keep going if you had something. If you were.
I mean, I couldn't. I'm so thankful for Jesus because just understanding of his grace and his mercy has been the most important part of my life. Like, I don't beat myself up like I used to because I know that I didn't let God down, that he's proud of me. With all these ethics and everything we talked about, like, I'm so thankful for his grace and the fact that he sent Jesus to change it, to change the way that it used to be. Because now everything that is in the Bible that we apply, that we talk about on this podcast, is all for our betterment and good. It's all, it's a setup for success. Like, if you ever feel like your life sucks and that no one's on your team and that nothing good happens, God set you up for success. And he has the best and absolute greatest plan for you as a human. Like, if you ever feel like anyone's against you, you have one person, no matter what, who will be on your side. And that's what I love about Jesus. He's always on your side. I love it. I'm so thankful for it.
You just got to do a little accepting, a little walking towards him. And
we talked about youth this Sunday. Yes, Lord. That's
there you go.
Everybody in the Bible that had a story. Moses, yes, Lord, use me. He argued and he didn't say yes. He said, why do you want to use me? I stutter. Noah.
Yeah.
I mean, Jonah. Like, I'm sure Noah was like, are you sure it's going to rain? Because it hasn't in a very long time. Jonah ran away, got swallowed by a whale until he said, yes, God.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just, it takes that yes, God. Do it. We talked about that. Drawing the line. This is where I say yes, God, from now on. I do that in my own life.
Yeah.
I'm sure you did in yours.
Oh, yeah. 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 Because I had some... I guess we're getting a little off topic here, but I had some self-confidence issues, when I was younger, and it's something like this, like when I was maybe in my early 20s or teens or whatever, I would have been like, yeah, no, that's not really me. I can't do that, God. Nope, sorry.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Maybe if I really felt it, I would have done it, but yeah, I was kind of caught up. And it's interesting because that kind of thing, you kind of look back at it and you're like, that wasn't so much uncertainty, low self-confidence. It's almost like pride.
Yeah.
It's almost like this
Well, it is
sense of
pride,
pride, like you think you know best and you ignore God's calling.
Another topic for another day.
Another
but
topic for another.
Pride is like, even when you feel like, oh, I'm not good enough to do it, that's pride.
Yeah.
It is.
Weird.
It
It's
really.
a weird paradox. But absolutely.
Oh, there's some cool stuff on pride. I can share.
Yeah. The forthcoming episode.
Yeah. Stay tuned.
Yeah. So actually, I think that about takes up our time for today. We had some other verses, but are you good with calling it here?
What?
Are you good with calling it here, or did you really
absolutely.
want to? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So thanks for joining us, everyone. Remember, keep that work ethic and study His Word, and you'll find multiple examples, more than we just mentioned today, about work ethic.
It's
and,
all in the. It's everywhere. I could study for hours.
Yeah. So until next time, chase God and chase His Word.
Be consistent.